A very good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are tuned in to the hotspot. It is an exciting day again for Manchester United as big news has broken. I'm sure many of you from wherever you are should be jubilating from within. If you've been following matters concerning Manchester United for the past couple of months, many people have been calling for the head of both the CEO, this is the man Richard Arnold, and of course the director of football. But for now, the conversation is about the man on your screen. That's the outgoing CEO of Manchester United, who has confirmed his resignation. The statement is running down across your screen in the scroll. I'll read it for you in a bit in case you don't want to read. It's okay, I got you. But how have you been, fam? Are you happy about the departure of Richard Arnold, who has been at Manchester United for 16 years? Listen, let's get that statement as you do subscribe, guys. If you haven't subscribed, well, I don't know what you're waiting for, but let's go with those who are moving with us as we do keep growing this community of Man United supporters. Now, here is the official statement from the club. Richard Arnold has decided to step down as chief executive of Manchester United after 16 years with the club. Now, of course, many of you will be questioning that. Did he really resign, or was it a forced resignation? But either way you look at it, Patrick Stewart will take over as interim CEO in addition to his existing role as general counsel, with Richard continuing to provide transitional support until the end of December. A search process will be carried out for a new permanent CEO. Joel Glazer, executive co-chairman, said, "I would like to thank Richard for his outstanding service to Manchester United over the past 16 years and wish him all the best for his future endeavors. We are fortunate to be able to call on the deep knowledge and experience of Patrick Stewart to provide interim stability and continuity as we embark on a search for a new permanent CEO." Richard Arnold, the outgoing CEO, said in his own words that it has been an incredible privilege to serve this great football club for the past 16 years. Yes, remember, before he took over from the former CEO Ed Woodward. He was still at the club. You would wonder, 16 years, has he been CEO for 16 years? No, he hasn't. I'll tell you what his role was before then. Subscribe to the hotspot if you haven't, because conversations about United are beginning to become hot and intense. The takeover is happening. Okay, call it partial takeover. Who cares? Changes are being made. Continuing with the statement, of course, from Richard Arnold, through highs and lows, the constant has been the dedication of our employees and fans, and I would like to thank all of them for their loyalty and commitment. And I wish everyone associated with the club the very best for the future. Patrick Stewart said in his words that together with my leadership team colleagues, my job will be to ensure that the club's foundations remain stable while we embrace changes that can make us stronger over the long term, on and off the pitch, and to support the search for a new permanent CEO. Those were, of course, the words of the incoming interim CEO, Patrick Stewart, who obviously we know will now certainly be confirmed permanently because, well, he has been part of the whole Glazer system. So obviously, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe takes over, all these should be leaving. But we love the fact that he's supporting the transition. But that's the situation. Now, I'm asking you, in your view, with the issues we have as Man United, was this what we needed to do? First, let go of the CEO? Well, I think so, because if you're changing things, you are supposed to change the person at the top, the person running things. The CEO is the person running the work, executing the strategy of the board. So obviously, if things are not working well, you start from the top. Let go of him, change direction, change execution strategy, and that's how you change matters. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe is working. I told you this was the week. This was bound to. This was going to happen. Hotspot. Do subscribe if you're here for the first time. These are the stories we keep talking about, and of course, we pride in being able to break some of them a bit, partially break some of them for some of you. But moving on, let's guys reflect back on this man, Richard Arnold. And I know many of you will be celebrating and jubilating now, but it doesn't hurt for us to look back and reflect on what his role is. First of all, the role of a CEO is, the CEO is the boss in terms of the secretariat, the employees of the club. The CEO is the one responsible for ensuring that the day-to-day activities, operations, all are met. The day-to-day activities that the club does are in line with the vision of the board and the club. So he's the one who is entrusted in everything. So he is a huge, arguably the most important person at the club because he's running the finances, he's running budgets and everything. So and he's the one reporting to the board. So it's a huge role. He's an important part of everything we are trying to do at Manchester United. So him going out shows you how serious Sir Jim Ratcliffe is, how this whole takeover we've been talking about is serious. And if you ever doubted for 1 second, perhaps now you've got to sit upright, pay attention, and say, okay, let's look and watch and see how the Man United movie keeps unfolding. What next is going to happen now? So Richard Arnold has been the CEO since and go from Ed Woodward. Now, his role included, of course, finances. And for me, I want to give him massive credit because you remember when Ed Woodward was in charge as the executive at Manchester United, he made a lot of money. He made a lot of money. And when he was leaving, it was not always going to be obvious that the next person would still keep making and growing the revenue of the club because the club was not even performing at the time. So for this man, the CEO, to be able to oversee a profitable a club, of course, we had a huge debt. He made the Glazers a lot of money. For him, he'll be able to oversee this success in terms of making money because United has been makes a lot of money even without results. It takes a bit of of work. It takes a bit of potential for you to be able to pull off that as a CEO because the football was not making it any easy for him to sell the club anyway to sponsors and all. So in terms of the football matters, and my expectation, quite to be frankly, was going to be that even with the staff, because the Glazers certainly would have felt, this was their man. I mean, he hasn't been there for all that time for no reason. I mean, they never tried to even touch him an inch. My expectation was he was going to stay because the football and the money are separated. I thought he was going to stay and run the money matters, and then he relinquishes the football. They remove the director of football, does not report to him at all if he were, and then let him run the money. So change the structure in that the CEO, Richard, Arnold, is now not in charge of the football, but he's still there because he's good at making money. But probably this is good because perhaps Sir Jim Ratcliffe does not want to deal. Excuse me. So, but yeah, I was a bit, should I say, surprised that he's leaving completely. But I think at the end of the day, even for his pride, that was the right thing to do. He also it's the right thing for the club because we need something new. But let's reflect on his time. Some of the key things that have happened during his time, the decisions he's made, I think key among them was the Mason Greenwood situation. You want to give it to him for money, how he managed it. I think no CEO in world football would have wished to be in his position when it came to the Mason Greenwood situation. Goodness. What's happening, guys? I mean, it's cold here. I don't know what's happening, but I'll still carry on. I can feeling okay. But anyway, maybe Richard Arnold does not want me to talk a lot about him, but I won't care. I'll go on. So, I think Arnold has done a decent part, but I want to credit him for how he managed the Mason Greenwood situation. I don't think any CEO, anyone in world football would have wished to be in that situation. You've got a good player who he's good. The fans love him. He probably loved him as a fan because, I mean, this boy joined the club when he was there. So he's his baby. He probably was he was leading the scouting team that recruited him because he was in charge of, football development and all at the club before becoming CEO. So he certainly must have had a certain level of attachment to this boy, Mason Greenwood. But here he is in a situation where he has got to make a decision for money. Because the decision to not allow Mason Greenwood to return to United was entirely commercial, not footballing, entirely commercial. But he was certainly could have been torn between a rock and a hard place as a person, but as CEO, he had got to make a decision for the club and its ambitions, that is making money, at least to the Glazers, so to please his bosses. So you feel it was a difficult thing, but he dealt with it, and the boy is on loan. He's still our player. We are becoming calm now. We are still, even those people who are so mad about him perhaps would be happy if he returned. The new people, the new scouts coming in seem to be impressed with him. Apparently, it's been said they were there. Paul Mitchell was there to watch him in Spain for a Getafe game. So you felt he left a window for the next person to come and and manage. And I feel the next person will obviously bring Mark Mason Greenwood and tie him to a long-term contract. But you think about that and sort of want to give him credit. But of course, there are also major flaws he had in terms of his negotiation. Many of us have questioned his negotiation, how he has been giving players crazy amounts of money for doing absolutely nothing. You can't understand why Mason, for example, Marcus Rashford is earning close to 200,000 quid per week. You can't understand why Jadon Sancho was tied down to such a long contract with such amounts of money. Harry Maguire, he was signing players to long contracts and giving them so much money. You felt maybe because the money was being made, they just didn't care, giving it to these players because they were anyway bringing in a lot of it. But you felt those are some questionable decisions in terms of negotiations, how United has lost out on top as players and signings we wanted, how we have lost out on, failed to sign certain players at the right time when we wanted to sign them, players snatched away from us. All that has got to go on on him, because he was overseeing all this, the CEO. We can never know what exactly failed him, but it was on him. He was the CEO. He has got to take the credit, like I gave it to him, but also take the flack, take the criticism. So I mean, it's been I think a difficult ending for him. Obviously, it didn't end. I don't think he would have wished for it to end the way it did. But I don't, for me, also think he was our worst. Yes, bad negotiations. They wasted a lot of money between flights in Europe trying to get De Jong. You remember in the last from the first transfer window, and they didn't buy. They didn't get him. So they have failed. Kim Mijé, and how we failed him to get him, and he crossed to Bayern, and how you pay a lot of money for a player like Mason Mount, the poor negotiation when it came to deals. He was just not a negotiator, clearly. And that's perhaps not a skill for everyone. But that said, I think he had his good and his weaknesses, but we still respect and commend him for the 16 years he's offered to this beloved badge of Manchester United. So he's no more Richard Arnold, guys. He will be there for a short time, overseeing a transition, and he will be moving on. So was he the problem? Was he the problem? Was he the first problem we needed to solve? This is Sir Jim Ratcliffe making moves. Are you impressed by the first move he's made? Let me know in the comment section as we do continue to follow this unfolding movie. The next multi-million-dollar question should be, who is said to be the next CEO of Manchester United? Let me come back in a bit. Let me grab something to eat. I'll come back with that answer. Don't you move a muscle. Keep it hotspot for any Manchester United news update.